Alright people, welcome back to another video in our MITRE attack series here. So today we are going to cover external remote services. So we are again in this field of initial access and the first contact that the attacker might have to your system. This is motivated by recent events. So we have this React Java web server vulnerability right now, which is also kind of an external remote service, and for that reason we take a deeper look at these initial access techniques. Today we have the Sunday the 14th. So what I do today is on a typical Sunday, rainy day, so I just sit down and read a little bit on cybersecurity together with you guys. Alright, then let's copy this. So here we have a little more to cover. So yesterday's video was, I think, like 10 minutes or so. So here we have a little bit more to dig through, but that's fine. We are not in a hurry as usual. Switch back to reading mode and just read that stuff. So technique number is 1133. No sub-techniques. We are here in persistence, but more importantly, as far as I can tell, is we are in the initial access phase here. Platforms are containers and typical operating systems. Contributors, you have a whole lot. So we see Trend Micro here. We see again Trend Micro, Palo Alto Networks, again Trend Micro, McAfee, Palo Alto Networks. Okay, so those are the well-known security providers. Asia Defender Research Team, so we have these people as well. Alright, Aqua Security. I need to check this out. I read this. I heard about these people. I just forgot in detail what they are doing. Either there was a job offering at some point, I don't know, but this triggers something. Aqua Security, I need to check that out. Okay, let's read what it is all about. So, external remote services. Adversaries may leverage external facing remote services to initially access and or persist within a network. And that's why it's persistence here, so they can do both. So let's mark it down. So to initially access or persist within a network. That's the whole goal here. Remote services such as VPN, Citrix, and other access mechanisms allow the user to connect to internal enterprise network resources from external locations. They are often remote service gateways that manage connections and credential authentication for these services. And then services such as Windows Remote Management and VNC can also be used externally. So here they name some of those. So VPN, Citrix, those are two that are explicitly named at least. And then we have such as Windows and VNC. We could click at VNC, but as usual, we don't go down every rabbit hole that we can find here. Okay, then access to valid accounts to use the service is often required, which could be obtained through credential farming with PH, interesting, or by obtaining the credentials from users after compromising the enterprise network. Okay, so it's good to know that valid accounts appears to be a necessity. Then access to remote services may be used as a redundant or persistent access mechanism during an operation. Yes. Access may also be gained through an exposed service that doesn't require authentication. In containerized environments, this may include an exposed Docker API, Kubernetes servers, API servers, kubelet, or web applications such as the Kubernetes dashboard. Alright, so it's also the containers are affected as well. And then adversaries may also establish persistence on network by configuring a Tor hidden service. That's interesting. So some years ago I digged into that stuff. Tor stands for the onion routing. So Tor hidden service. So that stuff is nasty because most security professionals, they don't mess around with Tor that much. So let me give you the onion routing is the name of that? Tor. Onion routing, and I need a logo for that. Let me go to Wikipedia. Don't they have a logo for that? Tor. Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is. So let's copy the picture. Oh, that's a big picture, but okay. Here, that's the onion routing. Tor. The R is a little bit weird, but that's how it looks like, okay, when we talk about Tor. So I just add a little logo here that you know, So that's how the onion looks like. And this is the stuff that you want to look out for. Most security professionals, they simply don't have time to dig into the Tor networks, but it's important. Also, it's illegal, so you can get in jail very quickly by just sniffing around there. Don't do that as an amateur, please. So always do this from a professional standpoint of view. So on a compromised system, Tor has hidden service. Adversaries may utilize the tool ShadowLink to facilitate the installation and configuration of the Tor hidden service. The thing about these Tor hidden services is that you can only see them through the Tor network. You don't see them otherwise. And there are also websites out there that you can only access if you utilize Tor. That's an entire parallel world on the internet going on. I'm not digging around in the Tor. I don't have a browser installed for that right now. I don't need it because it is full of criminal activities there. And it's full of agencies sniffing around there. So it's just a minefield from my perspective. A private person has no reason to even be there. It's really just a field full of criminals. Yeah, then Tor hidden service is then accessible via Tor network because ShadowLink sets up an onion address on the compromised system. Yes, and these onion addresses can only be accessed from onion routing. Then ShadowLink may be used to forward any inbound connections to RDP, allowing the adversaries to have a remote access. Adversaries may get ShadowLink to persist on the system by masquerading it as an MS Defender application. that's that's really evil. Okay, I've never seen that, but masquerading it as an MS Defender application, like holy crap. Okay, so that stuff is really nasty. The thing is, it is also very suspicious if you can detect any kind of Thor uh, traffic on your network because you wouldn't expect it, right? But yeah, interesting. So getting into Tor through this topic here, that's quite interesting. So let me copy now the procedures. So there are a ton of procedures again. We're not going to copy all of them, but let's copy, yeah, like this much should be enough. We have some groups, we have some campaigns, so that's quite okay. All right, let's switch back to reading mode again and take a look at this. So we have again some Ukraine electric power attacks here from 2015 and installed a modified DropBear SSH client as the backdoor to target the systems. Okay, that's a campaign. You have Akira, we have read that name, uses compromised VPN accounts for initial access to victim networks. Yes, if you have a VPN account of a company, then you can access the resources, obviously. Then you have some APTs, leverage legitimate credentials to log onto external remote services. Yeah, legitimate credentials, but the mistake happened somewhere else then. So isn't there a two-factor authentication, for example, or MFA, multi-factor authentication? Because then legitimate credentials won't get you anywhere. Yeah, so brute force authentication attempts, we have Citrix, we have again Arcane Door used web VPN sessions commonly associated with the clientless SSL VPN service to communicate to compromised devices. Okay, Chimera, we have read that as well. has used legitimate credentials to log into external VPN, Citrix, SSH, and other remote services. That's the thing, SSH oftentimes operates without multi-factor authentication. And that's why do people do that? Well, it's convenient, right? You don't want your smartphone or your token always generating these codes. And as a result, you compromise your company system as an administrator. All right, now let's dig into the mitigations here. And let's see what we have here. Let's switch back to reading mode. You might have noticed I'm speeding up a little bit because I just want to avoid having these hour-long videos. So we are now 10 minutes into the video. The maximum should be around 20 minutes for content like this, because that's easy to digest content, right? That's why let's try to speed through that a little bit, and you have always the opportunity to jump back to certain aspects. Take your time reading it, right? But that's the reason why I try to go a little faster here. So here are the mitigations now. Disable or remove features or programs. So disable, block services that may be unnecessary. That's a good recommendation for a lot. I marked the whole sentence here. So a lot of attack techniques don't work if unnecessary services are deactivated in first place. You reduce the attack vector by a lot. Then limit access to resources over network. So limit access to remote services through centrally managed concentrators such as VPNs and other managed remote access systems. Yeah, so you might have resources on your network that can never be accessed except if you are there, physically there. So limit the access to that. Yeah, multi-factor authentication. This is what I mentioned before. So no surprise that MITRE also thought about that. But yeah, with MFA, all of the attacks that say use legitimate credentials, they won't work anymore. Again, network segmentation. Of course, if the compromised service is sitting in a network from which a lateral movement cannot effectively happen, well, there is damage, but it is very strongly reduced amount of damage then. So yeah, network segmentation helps you for a lot of techniques, by the way. Then restrict web-based content again. So if restrict all traffic to and from public Tor nodes. That's the idea that I had before as well. So Tor traffic should be suspicious always. There is absolute no reason for your company to interact with the Tor nodes at all. So if an interaction from a Tor node happens, immediately block that. That's suspicious. But a lot of people don't know what the onion routing is. Okay, because it's a parallel world. The newspaper doesn't write about it. It's mysterious. Okay, so it's if for some reason it's far away from most of us, but just be aware it exists and it is dangerous. And if you know what it is, you have a good chance to spot it and to avoid it. You don't need to participate, be part of that Tor criminal activity, and never go on a Tor network from your private internet connection, because that's really dangerous. But um, criminals do that, cybersecurity investigators do that, and as a result of that, there is some activity happening that you should be at least aware of. Okay, so if somebody talks after this video, you should know what the onion routing is. You have seen the logo of it as well in what we have here. So yeah, it should be a common concept now. Let's look at the detection strategies for your SecOps. So here you have again behavior chain detection for 133, and so here they talk about unusual, unauthorized external remote access attempt. Okay, and then repeated failed logins because they want to get the password and the username. Outside of business hours, perfect. Some uncommon geolocations, perfect. So the trick is it's something unusual accessing your external remote service, and then internal lateral movement. There we go. And this is what you want to detect: internal lateral movement data exfiltration activities. So starting with unusual external access attempt, and in the end they proceed the kill chain. And you guys know what the kill chain is. You have watched the series, so you know where to locate these things, or where to. The first step when you observe something is to ask yourself, in what part of the kill chain is this attack right now? Is this initial access, or are we already in the last stage, action on objective? And here you have kind of both. So you have initial access here, but then you have lateral movement, data exfiltration, and that is at the later stage of the kill chain. Yeah, what else do we have here? Repeated SSH attempts again, and in the end remote shell lateral movement, same pattern. Again, unexpected inbound or outbound, VNC, SSH, screen sharing stuff, and in the end again file transfers. And here again Docker, cluster nodes, abnormal container creation starting, and lateral activities. So this is what they call here lateral activities. This is what you need to look out for in your SOC, because the compromise system is never the system that is interesting to the attacker. It's a good starting point, but from there they always want to move to the crown jewels of your company. And this is what you gotta catch. Alright, then let's take a look at the resources. So we have 61 sources this time. Let's see. Go 61 sources. Let's take a look as usual at the first ones like this. There we go. It's also nice and readable. And yeah, so let's jump back to reading mode, and let's take a look at the people who are researching this. Apple support, okay. So then we have Microsoft Threat Intelligence, the Bad Pilot campaign, okay. Microsoft again, NSA, CISA, Russian, GRU conducting global brute force campaign. Interesting. So whenever NSA, not NASA, NSA, CISA, FBI, if they cooperate, that's I think that's worth reading. That stuff is obviously publicly available. They must make it publicly available. It's an agency from government. They don't have to do it, but most often when these guys do research, it is publicly available, and it is a great source for education for the rest of the cyber community. Okay, then National Cybersecurity Center, NCSS or NCSC. Okay, then we have again the Mystic group, CISA again, another time Mystic, CISA. So as you can see, you have here a lot of these agencies and the big players like Microsoft participating in this, McAfee as well, from 2011. Okay, that's quite the old attack, but okay. Yeah, so those are the references. Alright people, so the video is coming to 20 minutes slowly. I think we have obtained a good overview what it is, external remote services technique. We know how it works. We have seen the very interesting connection to the onion routing here. We know it is in the initial access and persistence. I have found this Aqua Security name again. I will find that out if I don't forget it, but write me in the comments if you are interested, of course. We have some procedures on that topic, so we know what kind of attacks they do. We know that legitimate credentials appear to be an important part in that. And here in the mitigations, we have multi-factor authentication to prevent that legitimate credential requirement, so to make it harder to successfully conduct such an attack. Then we have detection strategies, again the same pattern, some unusual external activity followed by lateral movement and data exfiltration. That's what you want to look out for. And last but not least, we see here the players who have been researching that topic. So yeah, for now, so far so good. We have an understanding now what it is. As usual, let me know in the comments what topic catched your eye here. There are some rabbit holes that we can dig into if you like to, and yeah, let me know what you think. Thank you for watching. Thank you as usual for spending time on cybersecurity. This is always time well spent, and see you in the next video then. Goodbye.